she went missing and was never found. In February 2006, a young woman named Rita Montero vanished without a trace, sparking a mystery that has haunted her family and the authorities ever since. Despite numerous efforts to find her, many crucial questions remain unanswered. Today, we take a closer look at Rita's disappearance, the struggles her family faced, and the investigation that failed to bring closure. Join us as we explore the details of this heartbreaking case, shedding light on the unanswered questions and the frustration that has followed for years. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more gripping stories from Reddit, and hit the bell icon to stay updated on our latest videos. At approximately 9 a.m. on February 17, 2006, Rita's mother dropped her off at a bus stop near Matosinhos Market. Rita was planning to meet her friends there so they could take a bus together for a study trip. Arriving earlier than expected, Rita decided to step into a nearby cafe called Cafe International to use the restroom. According to an employee working there, she appeared to be in a cheerful mood and showed no signs of distress. Meanwhile, CCTV footage later captured her friends arriving as a group at the bus stop. They boarded the bus without Rita, assuming she had chosen not to join them, as this wasn't the first time she had skipped such plans due to her schizophrenia. Shortly after her friends left, Rita was seen on CCTV again, speaking to an unidentified woman at the same bus stop. Following this conversation, she approached another bus, asking the driver whether it would take her to the study trip location. When the driver informed her that it wouldn't, Rita got off the bus. That was the last time anyone saw her. Her sudden disappearance would spark concern, as those who knew her described her as a kind and bright young woman who valued her studies and friendships. However, her struggles with mental health had become a significant factor in her life over the past few years, making her disappearance all the more tragic. Rita Slough Montero was born on July 24, 1987, in Porto, a beautiful city in northwest Portugal. She was the second child of Luis and Maria, who, at the time, enjoyed a happy and stable family life. Rita grew up in a loving environment alongside her older brother, Victor. Those who knew her recall her as a cheerful and outgoing girl who had a passion for art and creativity. She was also academically driven, often expressing her dreams of attending university and building a bright future for herself. However, her family life changed dramatically in 2003 when Rita was just 16 years old. Her parents decided to divorce, ending what seemed like a harmonious household. The separation deeply affected Rita, and while she continued living with her mother and saw her father regularly, the emotional toll on her was apparent. The once vibrant and ambitious teenager began to struggle with her mental well-being. Over time, her focus on studies dwindled, and she started withdrawing from the activities she once loved. By 2004, Rita's behavior became increasingly concerning. She often missed classes, had difficulty concentrating, and seemed to lose interest in her goals. Her mother, worried about these drastic changes, sought professional help. After multiple consultations, Rita was diagnosed with schizophrenia, a mental health condition that profoundly impacted her thoughts and emotions. Symptoms such as delusions, disorganized thinking, and irrational fears became part of her daily struggles. Despite these challenges, Rita's family and close friends continued to support her, hoping she would find ways to manage her condition. Rita's disappearance remained shrouded in mystery, leaving many unanswered questions. Her sudden decision to board a different bus and her conversation with the unknown woman add layers of uncertainty to the events of that day. Those who knew her remember her as a warm and caring person who dreamed of a better future. Rita began to feel as though she was falling behind her peers, especially academically. She often compared herself to others, which caused her great stress and lowered her confidence. The medication she was prescribed to manage her condition left her feeling drained, and she started to experience periods of depression and withdrawal. Yet, amidst these struggles, Rita maintained a small but loyal group of friends who supported her. They brought moments of joy into her life and helped her navigate the difficult challenges she faced. On the morning of Friday, February 17, 2006, Rita, who was 18 years old at the time, prepared to meet her friends for a study trip. Her mother accompanied her to a bus stop located near the bustling market in northern Porto. Rita was dressed in blue trousers, a dark jacket, a yellow scarf, and sneakers. She carried a small backpack containing important items like her documents, notebooks, and ATM card. However, she forgot to bring her daily medication, which was essential to managing her anxiety and depression. This oversight would later become a significant concern for her family. Arriving earlier than planned, Rita called one of her friends to inform them that she had reached the market and to ask where they were. While waiting, she decided to cross the street to the nearby Cafe International. There, she borrowed the restroom and, according to the cafe staff, appeared cheerful and in good spirits. Rita then returned to the bus stop, but by the time her friends arrived, she was no longer there. Assuming that she might have decided to head home or take the bus to the study location on her own, her friends boarded the bus and departed without her. Normally, Rita would return home around 1 p.m., but on that day, she didn't come back. Her mother, Maria, grew increasingly worried as the hours passed. She tried calling Rita several times and sent numerous messages, but all went unanswered. Growing more concerned, Maria reached out to Rita's father, Luis, to inform him of her daughter's disappearance. Both parents were alarmed when they realized Rita had not taken her medication with her, as missing her doses could trigger anxiety attacks and worsen her depression. By Saturday, February 18, 2006, with no news of Rita's whereabouts, both parents decided to report her disappearance to the police. They emphasized that Rita was a young woman with psychiatric conditions who was carrying only a small backpack with a few belongings. Luis requested that authorities track Rita's phone to help locate her, but the police explained that such an action required a court order. Since it was the weekend and the courts were closed, they were unable to proceed immediately. This delay in taking action left Rita's family feeling helpless and more anxious about her safety. On February 18, 2006, an official report was filed to alert the public and authorities about Rita's disappearance. The report highlighted her mental health struggles, describing her as a young woman with brown eyes and light brown hair. Rita's parents hoped this would raise awareness about her vulnerability and prompt a quicker response. Her family feared that being without her medication for even a short time could significantly worsen her mental condition. By Sunday, February 19th, her father, Luis, brought further urgency to the case, stressing that Rita had not taken her medication since she disappeared. He presented a letter from her psychiatrist to the authorities, explaining that her schizophrenia made her highly vulnerable and posed a risk to her safety. On February 21st, 2006, the Judicial Police formally requested a court order from the public ministry to trace Rita's mobile phone. The following day, prosecutors launched a criminal investigation into her disappearance, granting permission to track her phone in the hopes of finding a lead. Meanwhile, detectives reviewed CCTV footage from buses and other nearby locations on the morning of February 17th. This effort confirmed earlier observations. Rita had entered the cafe at 9:15 a.m., where she was last seen appearing calm and in good spirits. By the end, the police also questioned Rita's friends to gain insights into her possible intentions or actions on the day of her disappearance. Unfortunately, none of them had any useful information. Rita had not spoken of wanting to leave home, nor had she displayed unusual behavior in the days leading up to the study trip. This lack of leads left investigators and her family frustrated, as her sudden disappearance seemed entirely out of character. Desperate for answers, Rita's family and friends took it upon themselves to spread the word about her disappearance. They created posters and flyers featuring her photograph, physical description, and contact numbers. These were distributed widely, covering busy streets, cafes, shopping centers, ATMs, and service stations across the Porto region. The case also gained media attention, with local radio stations and news outlets reporting on Rita's disappearance and urging the public to assist in the search. Her parents clung to hope, believing that someone, somewhere, might know something that could help bring Rita back home. Luis, feeling frustrated with the slow progress of the official investigation, decided to take matters into his own hands. He began conducting his own inquiry, retracing Rita's steps, and speaking to anyone who might have seen or interacted with her. While his efforts were driven by love and desperation, they yielded no significant breakthroughs. The family's determination to find Rita remained strong, but as days turned into weeks, the lack of solid leads made the situation increasingly heartbreaking. Luis, determined to find his daughter, tried to retrace her steps in the hours leading up to her disappearance. He visited the International Cafe where Rita was last seen and spoke to the employees. They confirmed that she had entered the cafe, used the restroom, and appeared to be in good spirits. However, they could not provide any additional details about what might have happened afterward. Despite informing the police about his findings, Luis was frustrated by the lack of follow-up. He claimed that the detectives did not question. The mishandling of the case became more evident over time. In a shocking revelation, it was disclosed that the police did not examine Rita's computer or search her room until 2009, 3 years after her disappearance. This delay led to widespread criticism from her family, friends, and even international organizations. Security experts also questioned the authorities' approach, particularly given Rita's vulnerability as a young woman with a serious mental health condition. Her family's anguish was compounded by the belief that more could have been done to protect and search for her in those crucial early days. For 3 years after Rita's disappearance, the investigation remained at a standstill, with no breakthroughs or significant progress. Frustrated and heartbroken, Luis decided to take legal action against the Portuguese state, claiming that the case was mishandled with a lack of compassion, ethics, and professionalism. In his lawsuit filed with the Oporto Administrative and Tax Court, Luis sought 50,000 euros in compensation for material damages and an additional 1 million euros for moral damages. He believed the authorities had failed in their duty to protect his daughter and investigate her disappearance effectively. The police defended their actions, stating that they had done everything possible to locate Rita. According to their records, they had conducted interviews with a variety of individuals connected to her life. These included her mother, her brother, the director of her school, some of her classmates, and 2 psychiatrists who had treated her in the past. Additionally, an employee from her mobile phone provider was also questioned to provide insights based on the activity of her phone. Despite these efforts, no clear leads emerged to explain what had happened to Rita. The investigation revealed that Rita's last known phone call was to one of her friends on the morning of February 17, 2006, at 9:16 a.m. Mobile phone records showed that her device connected to several cell towers after that, with its final location being traced to a town more than 7 kilometers away from the market where she was last seen. According to the telecommunications provider, Rita's phone remained powered on until 4 p.m. on February 18th, but it did not respond to any calls or text messages during that time. Afterward, the phone was either turned off or went offline and has never been activated again. Investigators also noted that Rita's debit card had not been used since the day she disappeared, adding to the mystery of her vanishing. To broaden the search, the authorities eventually registered her case in various international databases, hoping it would help locate her if she had crossed borders. Between 2006 and 2011, they followed up on at least 24 reported sightings of Rita both within Portugal and abroad. Unfortunately, none of these sightings yielded credible evidence or led to her discovery. In an effort to leave no stone unturned, the Forensic Police Laboratory conducted facial comparison tests. They compared photographs of Rita with images of women who resembled her, obtained from different sources. However, this approach also failed to produce any conclusive results. The lack of tangible progress frustrated Luis and her loved ones, who felt the investigation was riddled with inefficiencies and missed opportunities. The passage of time only deepened their pain and diminished their hope of finding answers. In February 2013, the court delivered its verdict on Luis's lawsuit against the state. The ruling was not in his favor. The court determined that the authorities had fulfilled their obligations and had not failed in their duty to investigate Rita's disappearance. It was noted that Luis had reported his daughter missing more than 24 hours after she disappeared, just minutes before her phone lost signal or was turned off. The court concluded that there was no direct connection between the timing of his report and the inability to trace her phone, dismissing his claim for damages. This decision was a devastating blow to Luis, who had fought tirelessly for justice and accountability in his daughter's case. The court's decision to dismiss Luis's case heavily relied on the fact that Rita was not legally a minor at the time of her disappearance. Additionally, her parents had not initiated a formal legal process to establish her as a person with a disability due to her mental health condition. This oversight meant that Rita was treated as a capable adult under the law, which influenced how her case was handled. Disheartened by the verdict, Luis decided to appeal to a higher court, arguing that the lower court had failed to properly evaluate the evidence and had misinterpreted key legal principles. In April 2016, Luis received another crushing blow when the appeals court ruled to uphold the lower court's legal conclusions. While it slightly altered some of the factual findings, it did not reverse the overall decision. This left Luis feeling that the system had failed him and his daughter. Around the same time, the prosecutor decided to formally close the investigation. According to documents from the European Court of Human Rights, the decision was based on three primary conclusions drawn by the authorities regarding the circumstances of Rita's disappearance. The first conclusion was that investigators had been unable to determine if Rita had died by suicide or had been the victim of an accident, as no body or evidence of such events was ever found. The second hypothesis considered the possibility that Rita had voluntarily chosen to distance herself from her family and disappear. However, investigators deemed this unlikely, as she was reliant on daily medication to manage her mental health. They found no evidence suggesting she had eloped with anyone or had prepared for a new life elsewhere. The third and final conclusion was that there was no evidence indicating Rita had been a victim of a violent crime, human trafficking, or illegal detention. Without concrete signs of foul play, the authorities decided that pursuing these lines of investigation further was unwarranted. While these conclusions brought no closure to the case, they allowed the authorities to justify ending their active search for Rita. Despite this, Luis never gave up hope. He believed the world was full of unexpected turns, and missing persons had been known to reappear even after many years. As a father, Luis clung to the possibility that a new clue or piece of evidence might surface, prompting the authorities to reopen the investigation. He refused to accept the idea that something tragic had happened to his daughter and held on to the belief that she was still alive somewhere. Learning to live with the constant pain of uncertainty, Luis often expressed his longing for Rita to return home and his determination to never stop searching for her. For him, hope was the only way to keep going amidst the despair. In 2017, family and friends marked what would have been Rita's 30th birthday by sharing heartfelt messages and photos on social media. They reaffirmed their commitment to finding her, refusing to give up even as the years passed. One of Rita's closest friends, who had taken the lead in keeping her story alive on social media, emphasized that as long as there was hope, the search would continue. The post served as a reminder to the community that Rita was loved, missed, and never forgotten. One of Rita's close friends took it upon herself to raise awareness about her disappearance. Using social media and other platforms, she ensured that Rita's story remained alive in the public consciousness. Despite losing his legal battle against the state in national courts, Luis refused to give up. His determination led him to take the case to the European Court of Human Rights, ECHR. He claimed that the investigation into his daughter's disappearance had been riddled with delays, negligence, and inefficiency. Luis highlighted specific failures such as the delayed entry of Rita's information into international missing person databases and the authorities' inability to promptly track her mobile phone. Luis further criticized the police for their lack of urgency in analyzing critical evidence. He pointed out that bus surveillance footage after 9:30 a.m. on the day Rita vanished was ignored, despite its potential to reveal vital details. Additionally, Rita's computer, which might have contained clues about her state of mind or plans, was not examined for years. Luis also emphasized that the authorities failed to take Rita's mental health condition into account during their investigation, overlooking the vulnerability of a young woman battling schizophrenia. These oversights, he argued, severely hampered the search for his daughter. In March 2022, the ECHR delivered its judgment, acknowledging the shortcomings of the investigation. The court stated that the Portuguese authorities could and should have done much more to uncover what had happened to Rita. As a result, the ECHR ruled that the Portuguese state must compensate Rita's family with 26,000 euros for damages, along with an additional 17,000 euros to cover legal fees and related expenses. This decision was a bittersweet moment for Luis, who felt some validation in the court's recognition of the failures but remained without answers about his daughter's fate. The ECHR highlighted key issues in the investigation, particularly the significant delays in obtaining and acting on critical information. For example, authorities only received data about the location of Rita's phone on February 24th and 25th, 2006, over a week after her disappearance. Even after obtaining this data, they failed to take immediate action. No follow-up investigation was conducted at the time to explore the phone's location, and it wasn't until 2009 that efforts were made to address this oversight. Such delays, the court concluded, were inexcusable given the urgency of the situation. Years after Rita's disappearance, new information from a telecommunications employee shed light on her phone's last known location. The phone had last connected to a cell tower in a small town several kilometers from the market where she was last seen. This revelation suggested that Rita had traveled to the area before her phone became inactive. With this lead, the authorities finally began investigating the area, but by then, years had passed and the trail had gone cold. The delayed response highlighted the tragic inefficiency of the initial investigation. As part of their belated efforts, investigators analyzed the geography of the town where Rita's phone was last detected. They examined local wells and monitored sea conditions to rule out the possibility that she had accidentally fallen into a dangerous location. However, no substantial evidence emerged from these efforts. While Luis appreciated the renewed attempts to uncover the truth, he remained deeply frustrated that such steps had not been taken earlier. For him, the years lost to negligence were years that could have been spent searching for his daughter. The European Court of Human Rights also pointed out that crucial steps in the investigation were not taken promptly. The judicial police failed to examine Rita's computer or search her. Upon hearing the European Court's decision, Luis expressed his deep disappointment with the judicial police. He criticized their negligence and lack of urgency, emphasizing that their failures had caused immeasurable pain to his family. Although no court ruling or compensation could undo the suffering caused by his daughter's disappearance, Luis hoped that the judgment would serve as a powerful example. He wanted to ensure that no other family would have to endure the same negligence in the search for their missing loved ones. For Luis, the court's decision was less about the monetary compensation and more about achieving justice and acknowledgement of the truth. As a successful businessman, Luis clarified that he did not pursue the financial settlement for personal gain, but at the advice of his legal team. His focus remained on raising awareness about the flaws in the system and advocating for accountability. He vowed to help other families facing similar challenges, using his resources, knowledge, and experience to push for reforms in how missing person cases are handled. Despite his anger, Luis did not believe that the police's failures were intentional. Instead, he attributed them to a combination of oversight, disorganization, and a lack of professionalism. However, he criticized the absence of an independent institution that families could turn to for help in such situations. He lamented how families like his were left entirely at the mercy of the judicial police, with little power to challenge or question their decisions. This helplessness compounded the emotional toll of losing a loved one. Luis recalled how during the investigation he had witnessed promising leads go ignored. At one point, when police dismissed significant pieces of evidence, he realized the gravity of their inaction but felt powerless to intervene. He appreciated the European Court's recognition of evidence that the Portuguese authorities had dismissed or undervalued. To him, this acknowledgement validated his concerns and exposed the gaps in the initial investigation. He highlighted two critical elements that, in his view, defined the tragedy of his daughter's disappearance. The first was Rita's vulnerable condition. She was a young woman suffering from a severe mental illness, making her especially susceptible to harm. The second was the delayed response of the police, whose slow and dismissive actions made it clear to Luis that they did not take the case seriously. For him, this lack of urgency demonstrated a failure to appreciate the gravity of the situation and protect someone who was clearly at risk. Luis vividly recalled an officer telling him not to worry, assuring him that when his daughter got hungry or cold, she would eventually come back. This dismissive attitude left him feeling even more helpless in the face of his daughter's disappearance. Luis remembered that during the same week Rita went missing, a newborn baby had also been reported missing from a hospital. The officer's indifferent attitude towards both cases highlighted, in Luis's view, the lack of resources and professionalism within the police force. He came to believe that the authorities were ill-equipped to handle complex investigations, which left families of missing persons without the support or urgency they desperately needed. Statistics revealed that Portuguese authorities handle around 4,000 reports of missing persons every year, with the majority resolved quickly, often within hours or days. However, there are still numerous unresolved cases haunting families for decades. Among them are high-profile cases like Madeleine McCann, who vanished in 2007 while on vacation, Rui Pedro, an 11-year-old boy who went missing in 1998, and Felipe Cabaco, a 17-year-old surfer who disappeared in 1990 near the Santorpes beach area. Rita's case is another name on the tragic list of those whose disappearances remain unsolved, leaving their families in limbo, yearning for answers that may never come. Despite the years that have passed, Rita's family has never stopped hoping for her return. Luis, in particular, remains determined to stay vigilant, always ready to act if any new lead arises. The uncertainty has left him grappling with deep questions about fate and guilt, wondering what he might have done wrong to deserve such a terrible ordeal. Yet, he refuses to let despair consume him entirely, as he feels a responsibility to be strong for his family and to continue the search for his beloved daughter. The pain of Rita's absence remains a constant weight on the hearts of her family and friends. Every day is filled with anguish and unanswered questions about her fate. Is she alive? Is she safe? These thoughts are intertwined with the faint but persistent hope that she might one day return. Her loved ones long for the day they can embrace her again, clinging to the belief that some miracle or breakthrough could finally bring Rita back into their lives. Until then, their lives are marked by a bittersweet mixture of sorrow, longing, and unshaken determination to keep her memory alive. The case of Rita Montero serves as a painful reminder of the unpredictable nature of mental health struggles and the vulnerabilities that come with it. Her disappearance sheds light on the challenges faced by those with mental illness and the critical importance of timely action and thorough investigation. Despite the years that have passed, Rita's family continues to hold on to hope, while the case remains a haunting mystery. Thank you for following along with this story. If you found it insightful, please like, comment, and subscribe for more gripping Reddit stories. Your support helps us continue sharing important narratives. Stay aware, stay curious, and we'll see you next time with more captivating tales.